Hi, I'm Carole Eipers at St. Mary Parish in Riverside. And as many of you know, we are beginning the Renew My Church process. And so we have a very special guest today. This is Cathy Walz, who is the Director of Pastoral Accompaniment for Renew My Church for the Archdiocese of Chicago. Cathy, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm originally from Wisconsin. My husband and our 4 daughters moved here in 1985, and I had been involved in ministry in the Milwaukee Archdiocese and jumped right in as soon as I came to the Chicago Archdiocese. So I have been involved in parish work. I've been a director of religious education. I taught in our Catholic schools. I have been a pastoral associate. I've worked for the Archdiocese previously, then back into pastoral ministry and parish work, and now I'm a part of the Renew My Church.
Wonderful career you've had.
It has been.
And a lot of different roles, which I think helps you to understand what parishes who are in Renew My Church are experiencing. Can you explain for us what a director of pastoral accompaniment does?
Well, I can best describe it by quoting this short little, probably 80-year-old man that came up to me at one of the parish gatherings. And he said, I heard that that person up there is going to help us with finances. And I heard there's another person that will come in and he will help us with looking at the buildings and the organizations of things. But what is it that you do? And I said, well, I'm not the finance expert. And I'm not the tuck pointing and church towers expert. But what I do is listen to the people and hear what's going on and listen to your struggles and your pain. And the little man said to me, oh, I know who you are. You're the heart expert. So I wish that was my title.
Oh,
what
beautiful.
I do is accompany people, literally listen to their struggles, listen to their frustrations, listen to their stories, because we all need to be heard in this process.
Yes.
And so that's a big piece of what myself and my team does.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's so important that people be heard.
Right.
Particularly when change is involved. Our grouping for Renew My Church, the parishes in our grouping are just beginning the process. What advice would you give to our Renew My Church teams and to our parishioners?
I think my role, where I described it, if my job description were a one-word job description, it would be listen. And I think as parishioners, that's what you need to do. I think anyone who's been a part of a faith community that has been important to them really understands what is important to them. And in this process, talking with your neighbors from the other parishes, you learn what is important to them. Many times we find out that the same important values exist in all of the communities, and maybe they're demonstrated or lived out in different ways, but to listen to one another and find out how you can work together.
We had a Zoom call for our Renew My Church grouping, and one of the things that struck me was how many people said, my parish is like a family. And I thought, oh yeah, we aren't messing with structures, we're messing with families.
Right.
And how important then it is to listen to what people care about, what's important to them.
You mentioned the families. What reminds me is how many times we have someone that we want to introduce and we say, oh, we've always called her our aunt, or this family and our family, our kids grew up together, we vacationed together, we've been like a family. And I think that's what Renew My Church can be, where families with similar values and wonderful expressions of faith can come together and just expand those families.
Yeah, a wonderful notion. Yes, and it reminds me of ancestry searches,
yes,
where you suddenly discover you have lots of other people who are in your family, and maybe Uncle Sam is coming in from Italy and you'll make room for him.
Right.
So family gives us a lot of insight into this process, I think. And yet, some people are afraid. What would you tell them?
Well, everyone knows change is coming. And that's a hard thing for all of us. I would tell people who are afraid, that's a natural reaction. And to get in touch with what it is you're afraid of. What is it that you're fearing? And talk about that with other people. Because many times you don't have to lose what you're fearing you're going to lose. You don't have to give up what you're fearing you're going to have to give up. Some of our fears are just irrational. We can't help it, but we're afraid of something, and it may not be really factually based. So talking about that helps ease some of that fear.
Yeah, and I like what you said, kind of dig into the fear and what is it that you're afraid of, and kind of what's the worst that can happen, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the best part of your ministry?
The best part of my ministry is walking with the community long enough through the process, because you know, we have different phases where people come in and bring their expert advice at different phases along this journey, but the accompaniment phase stays throughout. And so I see the ups and the downs. I see those who were very, very fearful at the beginning able to say, it's going to be all right. I feel differently today than I did at the beginning. There are people who are angry and frustrated, and they don't come around readily. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture here. But even given time, some of those people find their own way of finding peace. And I think that's what's important, because change is a part of life. It's just that it's a difficult part of life. And the Renew My Church process is incredibly disruptive to everyone. You know, you start looking at finances, you start figuring things out, parishioners learn they're not in the financial state they thought they were. Buildings that we thought needed this much repair really need that much repair. All kinds of hidden costs, things we didn't realize. That's all part of life's experience, but when you really come in and focus on those things, then sometimes that can be overwhelming. And so for me to see people move through that process and sort it out and figure out what is important and what should we do, and for what purpose are we doing these things? You know, what is our mission? Sometimes parishes have gotten caught up in doing things that we've always done, and they're a lot of work and nobody really comes and we can't get volunteers anymore, but boy, we've got to have that on the calendar. And then this is really liberating for them to say, you know what, we could use that time to do something different that would really help people come to know Jesus. And they're excited to do that. So lots of change, but change, though it's challenging, can bring about some good things.
Oh yeah, yeah. And change for, not for my sake, but for the next generation and generations to come. That helps me to let go of some of my anxieties. Accompaniment is a word that Pope Francis has used often. And even though you're the director of Pastoral Accompaniment, we're all called to accompany others.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
Well, to accompany is to walk with, and to walk with in a way that you really listen deep enough that you truly understand what's in that other person's heart. So when someone makes a statement, dig in a little bit. What's behind that? What's the value in that? What does that bring to you, or how do you feel that represents Christ in the world? What is it that you're really trying to say, to get behind that? To accompany one another. You're right, we're all called to do that. I love Pope Francis's line. He talked about priests or pastors or leaders need to smell like the sheep. That doesn't mean you walk past the pasture and observe what's happening and think you know it all. That means you really get close enough that when you come away, you smell like the sheep. And so we really need to get close enough to one another to say, you know, that person that seems so upset or so angry, I had a good conversation with him or her. And really what they're fearing is this. Isn't there a way we can accommodate that same value? Because that's what it's about. There's some deep-seated value that this person is really committed to. And I don't think we have to lose that. So accompanying people in a way that we really, truly listen deeply. And we all need to do that.
Well, Cathy, we couldn't be more delighted that you will be accompanying us as we face the changes that are necessary to carry on the mission of all 4 of our parishes. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and I'm happy to accompany you, and you have been and will continue to be in my prayers.
Thanks.
Thank you.